Welcome to the Magnet Pull, where we dive into Miami-Dade's most innovative and exciting magnet programs that truly make Miami-Dade County Public Schools your best choice in education. I'm Jacqueline Basayo, Executive Director with the Office of Innovation and School Choice, filling in for your host, Dr. Magda Castro-Pereira. And today's episode takes us on a global journey through our international education and international studies programs, two of our most dynamic language and cultural pathways. From Spanish, German, French, Italian to Portuguese, these programs truly prepare students to become confident communicators and global thinkers. Joining me today are Alexia Archer from George Washington Carver Elementary and Maria Buda from George Washington Carver Middle. And together they're going to share how both schools cultivate curiosity, global awareness, and academic excellence from the early years all the way up until middle school. Welcome to the Magnet Pull.
Thank you for having us.
So we're in season 2 of Magnet Pull. And every time I host, I always say, I'm so excited to get into these conversations, but I truly am. And I am definitely excited about the Carver conversation. We know the Carver schools are very recognized in the community. But I do think that this platform is going to let us really dig into what is happening at Carver beyond the language programs that we know families know about, but really what's happening in those classrooms, in the schools that really make what I call the magic that are the Carver schools. So I am going to turn it over to you guys to kind of talk about your individual schools and the programs that we offer. But, week after week, we talk about our magnet programming and we talk about how we offer programs across 11 themes of studies, one of them being international and advanced studies. And so the programs that you guys offer at the Carver schools fall within that international and advanced studies theme and what that looks like. So I want to kind of turn it to you guys to tell me what it is that you offer and really to discriminate between what is international education and what is that international studies program. How does it look different and how do families even decide between them? So I'll start with you, Ms. Archer, with Carver Elementary. Obviously you offer programming beginning in pre-K, but your magnet program starts in kinder. So if you can kind of tell us what that looks like.
Well, at our school, we offer 2 tracks for language. So if your families are looking for proficiency in Italian, they would do the International Studies program where they're offered proficiency in reading and writing. They get an hour in their normal school day and an additional hour after school. Then if they were looking for proficiency in Spanish, they would do the other and they would add the same thing, an hour. And my principal was kind of clever and created a way to mirror so that they would also get another additional hour after school if they took the international education program.
Right. And so the international education program, just to, kind of highlight the differences, they both offer this global focus. And international education really is a cultural immersion program with introduction to language instruction. So students have the ability to learn this new language, whereas that international studies program, it's really more of a full language immersion where students are learning beyond the regular language class. They're learning certain core areas, right, in that second or third language. What does that look like at your school? Because you offer both tracks as well.
We also offer both tracks, and we house 4 languages: Spanish, German, Italian, and French. And you can either start in the IE, which is the international education, which your child does not need to know anything of the language. You can start from 0. Or our international educations, our international studies, like we said, it is a more involved language. It's true bilingual, I guess you can say, because they do 2 to 3 hours in that target language, and the rest of the classes are in English. And it's not only a bilingual program, it is sponsored by the consulates of those countries.
And what does that mean, like with them having that partnership with us for those international studies programs, I guess specifically?
So we use some of their curriculum. We follow along, especially in history, geography of that country. We have cultural events, programming. We just went to a cultural event at the embassy, at the consulate of Spain, and it had to do with sports and how the sports looks in Spain and how they incorporate it in their daily lives. And the kids had a wonderful time, and they saw a lot of dancing, and they met some soccer players. And it was just a nice way to involve not just the language, but the culture of that country.
Right. And I do think that's so important to kind of drive home where they're not just coming to school and accessing these programs to learn a language for 30 minutes or an hour a day. It really is incorporated throughout. And a lot of families are always like, what does that look like? Because we hear that when we talk about any of our magnet programs, when we talk about thematic integration really happens throughout that school day. And so with our language programs, you're either taking some core classes in that second or third language, but then we also have this whole cultural piece. And we're teaching them these customs, and we're teaching them about the countries and the geography, even to the biodiversity, right? Which I think is incredible that it is so global in nature, and that's what we talk about when we mean, that's what we mean when we talk about that global integration throughout that school day. How do you feel learning, I guess, a second language and being in these global programs really helps students so early on, right? And even as they continue through middle school?
Well, I think that when a child has access to a language, it's not just the fundamental things that they would be learning, but they're able to captivate a global perspective. It gives them a way to have a stand in a room with different people from different cultures. So maybe if they were just in a class where they didn't have access, they wouldn't know how to communicate. They're exposed to different foods and different sports and different songs. And so then now they're part of a global community when they walk into other spaces, because they were able from such a young age, and it goes fluently into when they get to middle school. So by the time they're done, they're so immersed in a whole nother country from right there in their classroom.
Absolutely. And I have to say, I recently was at Carver Elementary for your Buda Festival, which was your culminating Hispanic Heritage event this month, and I really had goosebumps just watching. You had students representing different countries, and it wasn't just that they were representing them, they were of that country of origin. So I think naturally you do attract probably students and families from all walks of life. So, students are already going to school in this richly diverse community, but then beyond that, you really are exposing them to these different cultures. I think there's a social emotional development piece that happens when you do that. There's empathy that gets taught in that context, which I think is incredible, that not only are we preparing them academically, they're learning a language, there really is that cultural immersion that really is preparing them for real life, right? And so we know, I mentioned that Carver schools are very well known in the community, and you guys have a reputation for not just your language programs, but really the academic rigor that you do offer. And so, Marie, I'm going to turn it to you, because Carver Middle School is very well known, not only that students, they know it's competitive to go to Carver, but also we know that they're performing very high when they leave. So tell us a little bit about that component of it.
So because we offer a curriculum that has to do with our target language countries, we have to follow a certain pace, meaning all our classes are advanced and accelerated, and that's for both the IE and the IS program. So our students already are at a level that gets them ready for high school. Once you leave Carver, beginning in 6th grade, you're already taking a high school credit course. Your language, regardless in the program you're in, is already credited for high school. All our students leave with at least Algebra 1 and physical science, making sure that they are ready for those requirements for those high-level magnet schools in Miami-Dade County. And they go all over the place. We have yet to find someone that does not get into their choice magnet program. Yeah. And that's very important, because it sets them up for that long term. It sets them up, not only is high school competitive, right? College is now incredibly competitive. And we are already setting up these students with a lot of programs. Also, all our IS 8th grade, all our languages take the advanced placement test.
Wow.
That is a college level course.
Wow.
And we have a 95% passing rate.
That's amazing.
So it's very important to us to keep that academic standard, so we can show that we are not just in English, we learn in 2 languages, and we keep that going.
Absolutely. And I think it's important for families listening that maybe are transitioning out of an elementary setting, what Carver offers, but even if they already have their mindset, like, I want to go to this program for high school, certain programs do require that enhanced criteria. They are going to require high school level courses like an Algebra 1 or a physical science, and to hear that they're getting that in this middle school setting is amazing. And I think and it prepares them for when they get to that high school level. So even making that middle school decision, it's so important to understand that you guys are offering that. And so at Carver Elementary, you guys also offer a very rigorous curriculum, and you recently were designated a STEM Platinum School, and you're a proud science teacher.
Congratulations.
Yes. So tell us what that means. And again, here we are talking language immersion, cultural immersion, but that's not all. It's like an infomercial at Carver. We have more. And tell us what is more.
Yes, well, we are so proud that we are now a STEM Platinum designated school. So at Carver, we have a rigor, right? We are in the 97th percentile in academic schools, so we have the math and we have the science, but we said, you know what? It needs to be more because STEM, all things STEM is where everyone is going, and that's a language too. Absolutely. You need to be able to understand the mathematics and the science. So that in our school, we have like STEM Fridays where we do these little mini labs, and we do our quarter STEM challenges, and we have partnerships with local communities around us that come in, like and FIU, that will do STEM and activities with the students. And so it's just a language that's happening, buzzing. We're doing coding. So we don't just want to be a student that receives language. We want a student that's going to know about coding. A student that's going to know about mathematics. Yeah. We're a one-stop shop. We do all things to prepare them so that no matter what avenue they take in life, that from elementary, they're already getting their foundation so that when they go to Carver Middle, they have so many things that they can already have experience in. So it's a fluent transition so that when they go to Carver Middle, it's wonderful.
Right. And I think that's important, why I'm always the champion for these conversations and you know, this series of the magnet poll, because I don't want families to think because I'm choosing this global program, this language program, that's all I'm getting, and it's not. And really, you guys do a really, really good job of integrating other aspects into that school day to make sure that children are well-rounded, right? We know technology is advancing every day. And so making sure that students are ready. And I want to touch on this coding thing you just mentioned, because that begins in kindergarten, right? And what does that look like for a kindergartner, right? How are they coding?
So my principal had a vision, and she said, you know what? Coding is a language. And how can I bridge the gap where my students have access? So in kindergarten, you're going to do iBots. It's very simple with just coding with colors, which seems so simple, but for a kindergarten, they love it. Then from there, they're going to transition in first and second. By third, they start to do with the iBot. So each grade has access to coding in some form. So by the time we get to 5th grade, we have like these robots now. So coding starts young, and we learn the basic principles, the education, the language behind it. So by the time they get to 5th grade, they're ready to go. They're programming, they're going to competitions, and we're placing. So all the way through, I think it's just very unique that no matter if you're in kindergarten, you have access to something, that the sky is never too high, no matter your age. I wish I had a school that I could code when I was in kindergarten.
Imagine.
Could you imagine? So I just think it's a beautiful, seamless plan for us to do, and it really helps our students be ready for society, because we know with AI and all things technology, this is where the world is going.
For sure. And I think obviously that's a topic that's exciting and interesting for students. When we're talking about our younger kids and when we're talking about magnet programming, and we always say, find your child's interest. And maybe the child's interest at that young of an age is not learning a second language, but maybe that's what's important to the family. And so they make that choice to access these programs, but it's great to hear that that's not all, right? Like, you are going into a school that's very well recognized, has very high scores, is very notable, but also offers all of this other stuff that really is preparing them for wherever it takes them next.
Right.
And so, Maria, I wanted to jump to you about just kind of, obviously, and we talked a little bit about how that prepares students, how your academic rigor prepares students for what comes next. Specifically, obviously, when they leave Carver Middle, they can go anywhere, right? And you're saying they have access to any program of choice because of how high-performing they are. But I want to touch really quickly on families that choose to continue that IS program. And you mentioned this collaboration with the ministries of educations of different countries. So if a family or a student chooses to continue that pathway and say go to ISPA, which is our International Studies Preparatory Academy, what I want to talk a little bit about what it is that they graduate with. That's not just a Miami-Dade County Public School diploma, which is a benefit of accessing the IS program so early on, becoming proficient, and then what happens when they get to high school.
Yeah, so if they continue the program, the IS program, they end with a dual diploma. So they not only end with a diploma from a Miami-Dade County public school, the high school diploma, they end with a diploma from that country. So that opens the doors for them because they can go to schools in Europe. They can have, Canada, just a lot more opportunities that we offer for these students.
Absolutely. And I think that's important for families to know. They're not just graduating with, again, one high school diploma. They're also getting a high school diploma from that partnering country.
Yes, and depending on the partnering country, let's say you don't want to stay in Spain. It opens the doors for any European Union country. So it's not just now I can just use my language Spanish in Spain. I can use my Spanish here. I can use my Spanish there. Right. And a lot of travel work is now so integrated that I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
For students to have.
Right.
And even families or students that end up with a career here in Miami, right? It's a very international city. We're so close to South America, Central America. And so even if you want to pursue business, if you want to pursue any industry, it's so important to be able to have all these languages, right? So obviously families, as they start exploring our magnet programs or just wherever they want to go to, they have questions about how do I get in, right? So we reiterate every week how magnet applications and magnet programs require an application.
Right.
I don't know what I said. I said magnet application. Magnet programs require an application for entry. So I kind of want to talk about what that looks like at each of your individual schools because you both offer the international education, international studies, but it does look a little different. So Ms. Archer, if you can tell us a little bit about applying to Carver and specifically like how do families know what to pick from? Because the reality is when they enter the international studies program, if they choose Italian, they're not proficient right at the beginning, right? They're learning it.
So if they were to enter at kinder, there would be no proficiency test. They would just enter. But however, if they were to enter after second grade, there would be a test that they would have to take to just qualify their application. However, with international education, they would be able to enter, and there's no test for proficiency, and so they would just make sure that they apply through your choice between the window of October 1st and January 15th.
You got it.
And that's how it would look. So if they are young enough and they start at kinder, they could just join. And if they were interested in the Spanish program, then they would not need to do any proficiency test.
Right. And I think with Carver Elementary specifically, you guys are what we call a traditional neighborhood school.
Right.
So obviously, students, depending on where they live, they are zoned for a specific school. So we do have students that are zoned for Carver Elementary. But I just want to make the point that regardless of whether that is their neighborhood school or not, to be able to access either the international Spanish or international studies, they do have to apply. Carver Middle is a little bit different. So tell us about that.
We are a district-wide magnet, meaning you must apply. You can leave anywhere in the district. We don't have a home boundary program. So we must apply to this program. We have the international education, which starts only in 6th grade. Why? Because we follow a high school credit progression. So when you are entering Carver for the beginning language, you need to enter in the 6th grade. So for IS, we have 6th, 7th, and 8th. You can enter at any grade level, but there is a proficiency test attached because in our eyes, you have been taking that language for 5 or 6 years.
Right.
You are at a 6th grade proficiency. So what is nice about IS Italian at Carver Elementary and our IS programs at other schools is that we have a priority coming in. So if you are taking an IS program at elementary school, you have a priority when you're coming into Carver Middle because we want to keep that program alive.
Right.
So that's, I think, very important. All other students that are not taking have to take a proficiency test that requires reading and writing.
And writing, right. And I just want to reiterate with the IE program, right? And I know it, and I feel like I keep confusing myself as I'm talking about it, but and I think that's important to note, like families that maybe are hearing of Carver Middle for the first time. You don't have to be proficient because you do offer a pathway, which is that international education program where all they have to do is apply. There is a criteria that the majority of our programs have where they do have to meet a GPA requirement, conduct, effort, and they can't have too many absences. But there is a pathway for a student that may not be proficient in the languages. So I just wanted to reiterate that piece.
100%. Like we said, it starts from 0. Of course, our Spanish might be a little, a little more than hello at the beginning because
Right.
a lot of people in Miami speak Spanish. So it depends on how that class is going. But French, German, Italian, they start from 0.
Yeah. And so we're almost out of time. And I have to ask this question because we always ask this at the end. We know that all of our schools, all of our programs have something that, keep drawing families in, something that's truly magnetic. So Ms. Archer, I'll start with you. What do you feel is the magnet pull of Carver Elementary?
I would say the Carver effect. As you say, families, we are so big of bringing our families in with all our Taste of Carver, where we have all the parents, or our STEM night, or all the volunteers where they get to have a global immersion and they have an Indian festival. And so we bring in all our families, which doesn't just mean I drop my child off at school and then I have no idea what they're doing or just look through pictures. They get to actually walk the halls and they get to sit there and enjoy the experience with their child. So I would say that's our magnet pull, that we're bringing everybody in.
Yeah, for sure. And how about you, Maria? What would you say Carver Middle has, right, that makes it the best choice for families that are looking for a bilingual cultural education?
Well, I think it's not just the bilingual program. It's all aspects of that cultural identity. You learn so much about these countries that we are not just studying their language, but we're studying how the people live, the history of those countries, which kind of makes you live in two worlds.
Right.
And I think that's important.
Absolutely.
And it's not just it's not just a regular program, right? It's not just, okay, I'm learning this one language.
Yeah.
We have times where the students see events from the other languages, and it just gives them a worldwide
Absolutely.
effect.
And I've seen the magic of Carver firsthand, and I know I started the show talking about the magic of Carver, and that's what I always say when I'm out in the community, because it's not in the textbooks, it's not just in the classroom, like it's in the hallway, it's like the community that you guys do build, because you welcome families in, because it's this full immersion, we accept everyone and we celebrate everyone, and I think it's truly magical. And I'm a champion for, obviously our magnet schools, a champion for our Carver schools. And I'm excited that we were able to have this conversation to really let families know what is happening in our Carvers. So thank you both for joining us today. Thank you to our viewers and listeners, and thank you to Miami's Community News for their partnership in allowing us to bring these conversations of our schools to the community through this platform. As always, magnet programs require an application for entry. So as a reminder, our applications did open on October 1st. With just one application, families can explore up to 5 different programs, including the International Education and International Studies programs at Carver Elementary and Carver Middle School. Families can learn more by visiting our website at miamimagnets.org. We encourage families to stay connected to us by following us at Miami Magnets on social media to get up-to-date information on our upcoming webinars, in-person workshops, and our exciting Choice Expo and Showcase that we're bringing to the community bigger than ever. We have 3 locations, 3 dates, starting with our first Choice Expo and Showcase on November 15th at Miami-Dade College, Kendall campus. That's it for this episode of The Magnet Pull. Keep being drawn to what inspires you, and we'll see you next time.